good time to bring in Manav Chopra of Indiabulls Ventures, who joins us on the show now. Hi Manav, good afternoon to you. Thanks a lot for joining us, and also congratulations on your call on Nifty Auto.
Yes, thank you so much. I think we did have this interview last time, and where we were discussing in detail about how some select stocks from the auto packs would do well, and at that time I think M&M was one of the stocks which we had clearly highlighted as to be one of the leaders going forward, and that has been the case so far. And when at the current levels, the stocks that we had recommended earlier were Eicher Motors and Tata Motors also. I think eventually sooner or later you will see these stocks to also see some sort of a good outperformance going forward.
Manav, that's the M&M call that you had given in the past, but let's talk about the index call today, Nifty and Banknifty. What are you doing with both these indices? They've recovered from the day's low.
At the current levels, definitely, the kind of a move that we've seen in the markets in the last couple of trading sessions, and especially yesterday, I think markets could see some sort of a consolidation in the near term. The support of 10,600 would hold, and going forward, we could see higher levels. So I sense that since the oscillators have entered into a bullish territory, one should definitely look to maintain a buy on dips. For the Nifty, we expect an upside target of close to 10,800 to 900. Banknifty specifically, has formed a new high and has confirmed a series of higher tops and bottoms. And on the immediate basis, the positional support for Banknifty would be at 26,600 to 26,650. And as long as these levels are held, I think we would be inching higher. And on the immediate basis, the targets would be close to the levels of 27,200 on probably next couple of weeks.
What about individual stock recommendations for the day, Manav?
Yes, my first buy call is on Heromotoco. The stock actually has formed a good series of bottom near its important weekly support levels, and we have also seen a breakout after a good few weeks of decline. So at the current levels, it provides a very good risk reward ratio, as the prices have also tested its long-term averages. I sense for the near-term perspective, Heromoto has bottomed out, and for an immediate basis, we could see targets of close to 3750. But for on the long-term perspective, we hold a positive view on Heromoto and expect levels of even close to 4200. It has an important support on the positional basis close to 3600, which is on a very short-term perspective. One can maintain a stop of 3560. My next pick would be a buy on Godrejcp consumer products. The stock has been on a very good uptrend and has been continuously forming a series of high tops and bottoms. And in such markets, a low beta stock which is seeing a breakout on the weekly chart perspective, confirmation with volume, I think this is the stock would provide some sort of a safe bet in the markets going forward at such levels. We recommend a buy into this with a stop of 1140 for an upside target of 1225.
No autos. Okay, Manav, so those are some ideas. By the way, somebody just gives an update as well. Nestle, with this rise that we've seen today, let's just bring up the stock price of Nestle, 2.5%. But in the intermediate term, intraday, with the 3% uptick, Nestle hit that 10,000 mark as well. So good going for the Maggie maker. I remember about a couple of years ago, there was a moment wherein all TV screens, be it general news channels or business news channels, were logged on to that case of Maggie, and the stock was at 5,500 or thereabouts, back to 10,000, or rather at 10,000. It's an amazing achievement. Okay, before we move any further, let's head across to the Aquarius Healthcare and Chemical Day conference, wherein Darshan is in conversation with the Chairman and Managing Director of Aster DM, Mr. Azad Mupen. Darshan, over to you.
Well, okay, I have Dr. Azad with me. Dr. Azad, thanks so much for speaking to Bloomberg Quint. We spoke on the results, but let's talk about the outlook going ahead. What can we expect in FY19? Tell us about your expansion plans in terms of, hospitals, clinics, or pharmacies, whatever you're planning to set up in FY19.
Sure. So we have expansion plans both in India as well as in GCC.
Okay.
Because as you know, we have 83% of our revenues and incomes coming from GCC, and only 17% from India.
Okay.
So in India, we have a hospital coming up in Kerala, in Kannur.
Okay.
And another hospital coming up in Bangalore, the second hospital in Bangalore. So these should be online ready this year. And in GCC, we have in Dubai, Aster Hospital coming up. In Sharjah, another Aster Hospital coming up this year.
Okay. What about margins? Because if you go through the historic trend records, margins have come off from the high double digits to probably, the low single digits, to the single digit levels. How do we see margin trajectory going ahead?
Yeah, margin, if you look at from last year to this year, what we already declared, you will find that there is a margin increase. And the efficiencies are kicking in. And now, because we started large number of facilities in Dubai and other GCC countries, expecting the rollout of mandatory insurance. So that had pulled down the margins because of the expansion.
Yes.
But now it is catching up, and we are, this year we have done much better than last year, and we hope that it will go forward.
Okay. You had certain amount of write-offs in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
What's the update on that? What's the level of recovery?
Sure.
What is expected to come back to the company?
So the Saudi write-off is done and dusted last financial year. So we don't have anything being carried forward.
Okay.
So everything has been done, and we got whatever money was due to us after a haircut which we took. So that whole thing has come now.
Okay.
We got, in fact, we got some extra payment.
Okay.
More than what we had actually provisioned. So that issue is over, and Saudi is now only 5% of our GCC business.
Okay.
So unlike earlier times, it was having a significant portion. Now it is not a major issue at all.
Okay. What's the, on a consolidated blended basis across your hospital, what's the occupancy level currently? And once this expansion kicks in, what's the target occupancy levels that you're looking at?
Yeah. So expansion is around between 60 and 65 in India and GCC. The issue is that the expansion, when we are adding more beds, there will be a reduction in the occupancy levels.
Yes.
So it can't be actually taken into consideration, but when you look at the revenues, the growth at the top line and bottom line, if you look at our graph, it has been on the upward trend and around 25% CAGR in EBITDA as well as in revenues.
Okay.
But the occupancy levels also are picking up, and with more capacity added, the occupancy has got a tendency sometimes to go down little because you are adding a 300-bed hospital, which may be occupied little in the earlier years.
Okay. You did manage to hire some consultants because you're looking at cost cutting, you're looking at optimizing certain matrix. What's the update there? Is that fully done and dusted, or is this a continuous process? What exactly are you doing on that front?
Yeah, that process is going on. We think that the most important thing which can improve our profits is by reducing cost, both in India and GCC. So we have taken McKinsey in GCC, and in India we have taken EY. So they are on that process for control of both HR cost as well as the material cost.
Okay.
Okay, that's of course on the sidelines of the Equirius conference. Bloomberg Quint media partners for that conference, as also the Axis conference, which is underway for the last couple of days. Okay, before we get in our fundamental guest and some thoughts on cement, construction, home improvement, since we have Sarvendra Srivastava also with us, let's just get his chart checks as well. We already spoken to Manav about them. Sarvendra, good afternoon. Many thanks for joining in today.
Yeah, good afternoon.
What's your outlook, Sarvendra, on the indices this series? What is the trade that you're punching in today, or you punched in yesterday for the new series? And both on the Nifty and the Nifty Bank.
I think it's a mixed bag right now. So not, as I said, for the whole series, you'll have to wait out for a session or so and see as to what, because yesterday the volatility was like humongous, and the kind of volumes that we have traded, you need everything to settle down, and those 200, 300 points of discount on the Banknifty, I think rarely seen is that kind of discount. I think I have not seen in many years in the past. So I think I let it settle down a couple of days, because Banknifty has got a positive monthly close. Nifty on the contrary has got a monthly negative close. So let's see which, either the Banknifty pulls up the Nifty or the Nifty drags down the Banknifty. My sense is that when you get extreme sentiments like these, once they cool off, you'll get a clear picture. So my sense would still remain since now it has started to trade below 10,750, 10,700, we've been resigning that level. I would say that for the Nifty itself, I would say that I would still maintain that one retest, just like the last time we had said 10,400. Last time when we went there, one more retest of 10,400 is pending for strength. So now that retest will tell us that are we going to break lower or not. So if we go to 10,400, which I feel we will, and hold, then you have that construct of a uptrend. If not, and if you go there and then break it, then there's problem.
Okay.
Then there's one scenario that we don't go there and actually we break out from here. That will be very risky. If we break out from here and it becomes a quasi kind of a bull trap, then when it unwinds, it can be a little serious. So I think still in the process of figuring out these three scenarios, but my sense is that I'll still stick to one more retest of 10,400.
Okay, but for now, maybe staying on the sidelines and observing it. If that is indeed the case, what is it that you are doing in terms of trades? If not the index, are you trading specific stocks?
No, index I will trade. Index I will trade with the option. So I will say I will buy a 10,700 put.
Okay, you're buying a 10,700
Yeah,
put.
so I would say that when we go to 10,400, the put price will be around 300. So I will say 280 to 300 is the 10,700 put target. So participate there. And just in case we break out, you also have a stop loss there at 69.80. So if you lose half the premium, then and 70 points is okay for Nifty because you can't get a lower stop loss than that.
Do you hedge that because it's at the money option?
No, you would say that you'll just buy it and keep a 70 rupee stop loss.
Okay.
69.80 is my stop loss level. So if it hits that, then you are out. You lose half the premium, you are out. But I still believe that one test at 10,400, this particular series is pending.
Okay, so that's the Nifty trade. What about specific stocks, Sarvendra?
I would take trading bets mixed. So I will take one buy and two sells. So the solitary buy today is on Bajaj Auto, where we feel that the last 15 days of range has been broken on the upside. Decent numbers also got reported today. So the momentum is built in here. I would say that 29.50 is the target going forward, say 3-4 sessions, and keeping a stop loss at 2849 is what I would recommend. Spot levels on Bajaj Auto to take a buy there. And I have two sells. One is, and the sells are all stuff that is now closed on a monthly negative after a fairly overbought reading. So first one is Ashok Leyland, where we believe that the stock earlier also had negative divergences, all negative divergence build-ups over the last couple of weeks. Now confirmed with a good monthly reversal bar on Ashok Leyland. So my sense is that this could have eventually lead to larger weakness, but right now we'll stick to the 200 long term, getting retested at 135. Mm-hmm. So a target at 135, stop loss at 158.70 against spot levels. And again, the last one is Bata, where I feel that overall there could be a distribution pattern, slightly medium term taking in place. And again, the stock could probably head lower, but I would say then again, a long-term retest of the long-term averages. 720 is the target for Bata going down. 788.10 is where I will keep a stop loss. On stocks, I think an early closing stop loss will do. On the index, you already have a put, so no problem.
The bearish Sarvendra Srivastava. That's okay. Cool. Let's get in our fundamental guest on board. Tina Virmani, Vice President for PCG Research at Kotak Securities, joins us in the studio, has been very patient with us today. Tina, thanks so much for taking the time out and joining us. What are you guys telling your clients to do? Are you advising people to put in fresh money to work right now, or are you telling them to wait on the sidelines and wait for some correction and sit on some gunpowder?
See, our view on the market is to have a bottom-up approach and to be selective on stocks where you are seeing a good amount of earnings recovery, and to focus on the companies where they are going to benefit from increased consumption or rural revival or government spending. So these are the segments where we are actually recommending the clients to keep accumulating and keep adding despite maybe the correction in the stock prices of late in past couple of months. Mm-hmm. So that strategy is what we are recommending for clients for the medium to longer term, because we believe that now in the markets the volatility and the macro challenges are going to remain. We have higher crude prices, we have the concerns on fiscal deficit and concerns on CAD moving up, rupee depreciation, and even on the interest rates also, because now the cut in the interest rates, the rate cuts are already over. What we have to now focus on is how the interest rates are going to be going forward. So these challenges are going to remain, and given the fact that we have this election heavy year in this calendar year itself, so volatility is going to be there. So one should actually use this volatility to add these quality stocks and which are expecting the good earnings revival. So there, that is what is our approach for the investors.
You mentioned few sectors where earnings recovery can be seen in the fourth quarter? Any specific stocks that where correction has happened? Because we've seen the broader markets correcting a lot. Any specific stocks that you guys have been recommending?
So in the case of earnings recovery, we are expecting a healthy recovery in case of the construction sector, and we are expecting the recovery to start coming in for the cement sector also, mainly led by incremental volumes from various players. We also expect a decent amount of growth in the building material sector.
Right.
Though we had to cut down on our estimates for growth because of pricing pressures which most of the companies had to face, and still the impact of GST implementation and e-way bill implementation is still not reflected on those companies. So that's the reason we had to cut down on our estimates a little bit for building material. But we do believe that with improvement in your GST compliance, these sectors should start doing well from second half of this financial year.
Interesting. Let's talk about a couple of spaces which are in news. The construction space. Now, what's the thought here? I mean, do you guys like anything specific? And if you don't have a company recommendation, I'll ask you about one company which is hot in news right now, Dilip Buildcon.
So Dilip Buildcon is our topic in the construction sector, and we do have a buy rating on Dilip Buildcon. There have been certain rumors which were floating in the market, which the company has also addressed regarding their auditor resignation and certain concerns as far as the balance sheet numbers are concerned. But when you prima facie look at the balance sheet, the construction sector itself is a working capital intensive sector.
True.
So you can't expect a construction company to have a negative working capital cycle. There are bound to be higher receivables, there are bound to be higher inventory. But then as and when the payments are released, the receivables come down. And when you
Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think we had a conversation a long time back with the management, and they said they outsource a lot of their work.
No, Dilip Buildcon does not do outsourcing or subcontracting. They don't do subcontracting, and that's the reason they have higher margins as compared to the other
so
players.
Everything is in-house.
Is in-house.
Okay, that my bad then. Have you had a word with the management? Did they come out and clarify? Because obviously they've told the media channels that there's nothing of that sort. Auditors are not resigning. They've got the earnings also. But as a house, because you have your top call in the construction space with Dilip Buildcon, did you have a word with the management?
Yeah, we had, and I don't see the concerns which had been floating in the market from past 1 or 2 days. They do have too much of a weightage. One was also regarding the intangible assets and all, but I mean when anybody is punching the numbers of any construction company, any analyst or any fund manager would know that toll projects have to be classified as intangible asset. So I don't know why such kind of queries were being raised, but any which ways, I mean as far as execution is concerned, we believe that there should be a very healthy execution going forward for the company, and margins should also be maintained at similar level. So we maintain our buy call on Dilip Buildcon.
Okay. What's your view on cement, and are you choosing to go with the larger names, or are you looking at some of the mid-sized names? Because a clutch of these mid-sized cement companies have come off. I mean, we had Orient yesterday on air talking about this deal reversal which has helped them, but by and large that stock has come off. The JK Lakshmis, JK Cements of the world haven't really done well. Sanghi has been beaten down black and blue. Not that ACC Ambuja are any different. What is it that you prefer in cement and why?
In cement, currently we do have a bias for the larger companies, and reason being, at least they would be able to command a significant volume share once demand starts recovering. And this being an election year, and the issues which were there till last year regarding demonetization or a GST and slowdown in the housing segment, or a rural slower than expected rural recovery, they are getting a little bit addressed. So volume gains are going to be witnessed boost for the cement companies, and we like Ultratech because firstly because of the huge volume gains that we are expecting for the company. One from the JP Associates integration, where company has already achieved drastic improvement in the capacity utilization, and we would also have the integration of Century assets once the deal gets approved after 2-3 quarters. So as far as costs are concerned, costs are likely to remain high for the cement sector. We do not expect the cost to come down. So those who are the leaders in the market, they should be able to command a premium as and when the price hikes happen as compared to the smaller players.
What's the view on the stock? If
We have a buy rating.
you have a
on
buy
Ultratech.
rating, no, if they get to acquire Binani Cement's plant?
If they get to acquire Binani Cement plant, there would be some increase in the borrowings of the company, but when you look on a longer term basis, they would get access to the markets where Binani is currently present. They would get access to the limestone reserves, which is actually a key thing for the cement companies these days. So we would view it positively, but we will have to see at what valuations and what is the final price that the company is going to pay to Binani,
Okay,
if at all it happens.
Okay, so my last question to you, and that's on what is arguably a very wide basket, which is home improvement. Right? There are tile companies, there are, companies like Astral, if I can use that term, get somewhere in that home improvement, home building space, a clutch of other names. What do you like the most and why?
So in the tile space,
You're constructive on the space by and large.
Yes, we are constructive on the space, but we do believe that next 2 quarters are going to be challenging. And as far as the implementation of e-way bill was concerned, after April, and now from the June month, we should start seeing volume improvement for these companies. But then if that doesn't happen, it's going to be a challenge for the entire sector itself. But we are maintaining our view that after 1 or 2 quarters, the volumes will start showing an improvement. So it will be a volume-led recovery, but not a pricing-led recovery. So we are positive on Kajaria Ceramics, we are positive on Century Plyboards, and on an overall basis, we are positive on Shankara Building Products also.
Because a lot of these stocks were going up after there was so much of emphasis on housing for all by 2022. But majority of the stocks have actually come off the highs.
Right.
So which is that top pick in this space that you would recommend investors to look at now, considering the correction has happened?
So all these three, which one? The Kajaria Ceramics, Century Plyboard, and even Shankara Building Products.
Okay, Tina, we'll leave it at that. Many thanks for joining in today and giving us your perspective, and thanks for your ideas as well and your time. I could have well added thanks for being patient with us as well today, but it's just been so much that's happened. Nevertheless, let's talk about some specific names. Manav, I don't know if we asked you about Bajaj Auto or no, but since you track the auto names so closely, this 5.5% uptick in Bajaj Auto, is there room for someone to initiate some fresh trades here?
Yes, absolutely. If you look at the weekly chart perspective, the stock, after a series of decline from the highs of 3,400, is kind of forming a double bottom pattern, and these lows also coincides with some important weekly lows that was occurred in the past. So this is a very important support confluence and definitely provides a very high risk reward ratio. I sense the stock should not be traded for a very short term momentum play, but eventually this has a potential to test the levels of 3,100 or even higher. So the support of 2,850 can be considered on the immediate basis, and a trail or a positional stop loss of 2,820 on the lower side, and one can definitely take a ride for at least couple of months into this stock.
Okay, Bajaj Auto is also a buy call from Sarvendra side. Just want to mark few stocks. If you could just pull up Blue Dart, that's gone up almost 5% in today's trading session. Merck is doing well. That's up about 11%, as of now. And Tata Motors DVR, that's gone up 3 to 3.5%, I guess, as we speak, at 175. Sarvendra, any of these stocks on the charts where fresh trade can be taken?
I think I'll out of these three names, I think I'll go with the Tata Motors. I think clearly with the MSCI rebalancing, everything now getting over, the stock is now refusing to go below 285, 286, and I'm not looking at the DVR price. I'm looking at the stock.
Okay.
And I would say that from a trading angle, with these kind of oversold readings, very difficult for it to go much lower. And we have to also keep in mind the fact that right from 2012 onwards, 260, 270 has been the maximum panic that this stock has, and those prices have arrested the fall. So it's been 5-6 years, not gone much below 270, and all major volumes have happened around 270, 275. So I would say that what are you looking at? You're looking at a 15-point downside possible. Even a positional trade with a closing basis 15-point stop loss, you could look for a pullback target all the way till 330, 340 now. So I would say that positional basis also it looks good. And from a trading angle, you can look at a stop below 285, 284. Let's keep it at below 284 and look for a target of around 300.
Stay on. So much more to talk about. Gentlemen, both of you, stay on. Lots more to chat about. We'll take a very quick break on that note. Come back from the break and tell you what dealing rooms are recommending in the session today, give you some closing strategies, and maybe make you hear some more market voices. Welcome back to Countdown right here on Bloomberg Quint. The markets, the Nifty Bank is the principal culprit. That's why I thought that it's okay. Maruti Suzuki certainly made a strong, roaring comeback, 3.5% higher. But I tell you what's broken the stranglehold of the auto names in the top 4 gainers list is Bharti Airtel. Pull up the intraday of Bharti Airtel for the benefit of our viewers. And that stock is now trading at the highest point of the day. So good going really for Bharti Airtel. A lot of chatter about Bata on our social media platform. Actually, Sarvendra, you gave a call on Bata, did you?
Yeah.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
you've given a call on Bata.
Yeah.
So maybe let me ask Manav about Bata. People have already heard what Sarvendra's thought is on Bata. Manav, any thoughts on Bata individually?
See, at these levels, the stock has an important support close to the levels of 740, and most importantly, if you're looking at its trend, the stock is still its trend is still intact, and I sense as long as 740 levels are held on the lower side, which also coincides with its recent lows and its important long-term averages, I think we could see a bounce back again to the levels on the immediate basis. So this would be a very short-term call. Yes, I do agree. The trend on a high time frame is little bit. You can expect some range-bound volatility, but I would definitely look to buy this stock around the levels of 740, 745.
Okay, that's the view on Bata. Sarvendra, you suggested to buy the 10,700 put. One of our viewers is asking you if they can look to buy 10,300 put or not.
I think that would be very deep out of the money. That would be very, very out of the money. And suppose if you are saying that initially we are looking at a target of 10,400, that strike will not even get into the money. So the only thing is that you would just make that trading gain. And if time passes and it takes 10 days, then you end up making no money at all there. So I would say that it's better to take a 40-50 point risk or 50-60 point kind of a hit on the at the money option and try and trade, because then you get the maximum juice. And when you are in the money, then actually you can actually hold also. You never know. Tomorrow you gap down 100, 150 points, then the put value shoots up at the money. And then you can just hold on and then roll down to a lower strike with more quantity. I would say an aggressive strategy is always like that. If you buy at the money and then you double your capital, then you can buy lower and you can increase your quantity. If 10,400 breaks, actually you should increase the quantity. And you should roll down and go into a lower strike and buy more quantity and get maximum bang for the buck. So that's an aggressive option strategy, not recommended for everyone. But the guys who understand it in a trend, when you double down on the downside, you make the most money. So I would say avoid 10,300. Max you want to go down, go to 10,600, not below that.
Interesting. Some queries and some moves in the oil marketing companies, if I'm not wrong. If we can pull them up, BP, HP, IOC. All three should come up. At least HP and BP should come up on your screen the intraday, and they are doing reasonably well in today's session. 1.5% apiece. Actually 1.5% for BPCL. HPCL marginally in the green. So no, my eyes were playing tricks with me. Not really big bang moves, but some moves nevertheless onto those. Stocks at 52-week highs include, Navneet has already spoken about Merck, Torrent Pharma, First Source, and KPIT Tech. Some fabulous moves really into some of these. Manav Chopra, you come in on First Source. not too many mid-cap IT stocks currently are trading at highs, but this one is, and it's gained steadily from strength to strength. I think a five-year chart is also exemplary. When Sanjeev Goenka bought the company, I think it was at 12 rupees, from there to 75. But just the move in the last 6 odd months has been terrific.
Absolutely, in fact, the stock has seen a very good series of rally, and most importantly, as the stock made a new high, even on the weekly perspective, it has been backed by very good volume. So even though the oscillators are in the buy mode in the overbought conditions, I still sense this momentum would continue. The best way to trade this stock is, to maintain your weekly lows as your trail stop loss. So in this case, anyone who's holding a long positions should definitely continue holding so with a trail stop of 69, and eventually the kind of a momentum it is in, I sense that this stock could also see some more upside into it. On the immediate basis, 79 would be the short-term targets, and thereafter 83. But this stock also, after a good sideways consolidation of 3 years, has seen a good breakout. So the overall trend has definitely established very well, and it is definitely a good buy on dips approach. This is a stock where even on the short-term basis one can look to buy this.
Okay, buy on dips approach is what Manav is suggesting on first. Well, besides Bajaj Auto, even Maruti has done quite well today. It's trading with gains of over 3%, and I guess we've got some query also going on Maruti. Somebody wanted to know whether if there's any trade that can be taken. I think Chetan had written to us. Sarvendra, any trade that you would advise on Maruti, considering it's up 3% in trade?
I would say that if it corrects, say 150 odd points, then probably the risk rewards would be better. Within a slightly medium to long term, I think there is definitely weakness here. You would for a buy side trade, you would want to wait 150 points, and even for a sell side trade, you will want it to pull back at least 150 points. Then you will want to sell, because right now it is bang in the middle of a risk reward range. So I would say that looking at the quality of the stock, and we also believe that there's something pending on the upside in Maruti, I would say that the moment it comes close to the longer term 200-day averages, around 150 odd point correction, then you have a good stop loss below 8450, and it comes back to around 8600, 8630. So you place a stop below 8450, and then you look for a target in the region of 9000, 9100. So that would be a good trade when it matures.
Well, let's ask the fundamental expert as well. What does he make of Maruti? Siddharth Sidani, Vice President for Equity Advisory at Anand Rathi, joins us right now on the show. Siddharth, good having you. Thanks so much for joining in. What do you do with Maruti? I mean, as an investment, is it a better bet compared to some of the others?
Thank you, Neeraj, for having me on the show.
Pleasure.
Well, Maruti numbers were quite good, 26% on a YOY basis. Along with that, if you talk about the exports, which went up 48%. Maruti, definitely, it's a portfolio stock. It's a no-brainer. They have a product profile and the launches which is there in the pipeline for next 2 years. Of course, they have a lot of waiting in terms of their models. Even the smaller models has been really doing, has given a fabulous growth. So it's definitely a no-brainer, a portfolio stock. But what can we read further in the auto sales numbers? Is of course Ashok Leyland is one of the place where there is a strong growth on a YOY basis compared to the last month. Of course, last month was one of where we have seen a subdued kind of a performance, and Tata Motors also posted a good set of numbers. So I would still like to go with CVs more than any other stock, and Maruti, as your question and a particular precise answer, it's a no-brainer. It's a portfolio stock. It should be there.
Okay, that's the fundamental view coming in on Maruti, which has seen strong gains after it posted the highest ever monthly sales number for the month of May, remember. So good going for this one. Let's just address few stocks. Remember, broader markets have been weak since yesterday. So look at stocks like Kaplan Point. It's down almost 12.5%, and my producer also tells me it's been falling for the last 4 trading sessions. 1% beverages. Neeraj, now I think it's the 5th straight day of lower circuit. Now it's down nearly 10% after seeing some bit of respite in the opening trade. 1% is down 10%, and Marksans Pharma is down 8%. Quality is locked in lower circuit with cuts of about 10%. So from the broader markets, we're seeing sharper corrections coming in for a lot of these stocks. But Siddharth, I want to talk about V-Guard. If you track this one, the counter has been falling since yesterday, I think, post the numbers. If you did get a chance to look at the numbers, any thoughts on V-Guard?
Well, we don't cover V-Guard, so it would be really difficult to give a precise answer on V-Guard because we don't have a granular numbers of V-Guard.
Okay, no problem. But Sarvendra, very quickly on the charts, I think yesterday there was a fresh short build-up. Today also we're seeing fresh short build-up. Do you see further correction? Where is the support for this one coming at?
I will have to just get this stock out. I'm just trying to find it out.
The numbers weren't the best, right? The numbers were slightly patchy for this one. So it was down about 5. I think this week's chart for V-Guard will show you that the stock was down about 5% in trade yesterday as well, if I'm not wrong. And it's down another 5% in trade today. So this week's about 7%. The last 2 days is about 10%. I don't know if it's a trading play per se, but Sarvendra, do the charts suggest lower levels? And therefore, if somebody has it in the portfolio and is okay to get into that trading mentality as well, do you see lower levels here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I see lower levels, and what has happened to mid caps, we've all been witness to what has happened since September onwards, the way individual stocks have sold, and this is from the outperforming category now. So if it's turned this time around, then in percentage terms, it has to go a long way and do much more corrections. Today is the first day on good. Last 2 days have been very good volumes, so that's a point to be noted, and these volumes are among the highest volumes in the last 12 months, these 2 days of volumes, back to back. Okay. And today we have broken the long-term 200-day averages, both simple and exponential. So that way the long-term trend is over. So anybody who was a long-term player, bought it, it's good time to book profits. If you're not able to regain 220, 230 going forward, the more time you spend below this, the more selling will emerge. So I would say that good time to book profits. Still, I think it's a better off stock and still not fallen the way others have. So my sense is that if it continues like this and stays below the long-term 200, then it is headed for at least 175, 180. So that would be at least, and then it can be slightly more, but I would say 175, 180 is the target in this breakdown.
Okay, that's the call coming in on V-Guard.
312.
Yes, but Neeraj, it's day one of the new series. I was just checking the list. I don't think there's any stock that can enter into the F&O band for Monday's trading session. But let's see, stocks I think which were close to that were stocks like where open interest still appears to be pretty much on the higher side are the likes of Raymond, Capital First, and your usual suspects. Divan Housing, I remember for majority of the period in the May series was into the band period.
Actually, pull up Divan Housing today and let's see what's happened to the stock price. A lot of stock flying around. The stock though flattish in the session today. What's done well in the last few minutes of trade is Engineers India as well as Dr. Lal Path Labs. Both of the stocks have moved up, and Engineers India in particular from the levels that it was at, a bit of a sharp pullback there. Similarly for Dr. Lal Path Labs as well. Siddharth, what is it that you would be recommending? I mean, right now, if some of your clients are calling and asking about what stocks are there in which people can put money to work from a long term, from a 2-year, say 2-year, 3-year perspective, what is it that you would be advising them?
Well, Neeraj, mid-cap is really getting battered. But there are good companies which is available at a lower levels where buy on dips strategy can be adopted for those companies. And what we are recommending at the current juncture is companies like which are catering to auto sector, which are an auto ancillary pay, companies like Sundaram Fasteners. We have a target of 760 with a 1-year horizon. Now it's the largest player and exporter in high tensile fasteners, catering to most of the segments like 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers, commercial vehicles, tractors. So it is catering to all the segments in the auto sector. So it's completely a wide range of products. Of course, the company is planning to get into the further product mix and improve the product mix going forward. Company has done a 200 to 300 crore capex in FY18, plans to have a 350 crore capex. What quality brings in is return on equity, because a value investor would always look into some of the financial parameters like return on equity. This company has a 25% return on equity. So Sundaram Fastener as an auto ancillary play, strong management, as we know, it's a good parentage. Along with that, what we believe is auto play is really doing good. Looking at the auto sales numbers today, of course, there is a lot of traction which is seen most of the segments, if we talk about passenger vehicle or commercial vehicle for that matter. So of course, Sundaram Fastener in the auto ancillary play with a target of 760, 1 year time horizon, one should definitely buy this, and buy on dip strategy should be adopted.
By the way, just a small global update as well. Spain's leader Rajoy has been ousted in a no confidence vote, with the Socialist Party gaining power. The European indices, all three of them, at least the three that we monitor, FTSE, CAC, DAX, all of them are up in the session today. Stock 600 too is up about 1%. So by and large, the screen is green in the rest of the world. It's unfortunately quite the opposite for our markets, but the European markets seem to be okay. Can you get the Dow futures as well and just try and see what's happening there before we move on to what dealing rooms are recommending in the session today? Marginally higher, so we may be off today, but the world markets don't seem to be unhappy a place. Maybe, just maybe, a small surprise there. Let's wait and watch. For now, it seems okay. Last 14 minutes of trade left. While we can't get information on the index, nobody can, but what we can do is call up dealing rooms and try and get information about what specific stocks are the talk of town. Yatin Mota is joining in with his channel checks on our segment dealers. Say, Yatin, good afternoon. What are you learning?
Neeraj, PSU banks, all of them, of course, are under pressure, but dealers do indicate there is some positive news flow expected over the weekend and next week. They're talking about some announcements with respect to PSU banks from the government end. PNB, Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, all of these, SBI, all of these stocks are on the dealing room radar. They are selectively buying, PSU banks at this point in time currently. Also, watch out for SRF. The stock is down 4%, but dealers do indicate that, BTST is something that dealers should look at as far as SRF is concerned on the chemical side. And finally, we have Diwan Housing. That is one stock wherein dealers are, initiating some short positions on the basis of F&O trends. So this is one stock on the dealers' radar as well.
Thanks, Yatin, for bringing in all those details. Well, at least some support is coming in from the heavyweight Reliance Industries today. I think that's sitting with some amount of gains. Reliance was up in yesterday's trade as well, or about 0.5%. And today it's, however, off the day's high, but still giving some support to the market. Manav, on the charts, is there any trade on Reliance Industries that one can look at?
See, Reliance is having an important support levels close to the 910, 915. So, it has been consolidating near these levels since last couple of trading session, and the price band has been enveloped between the 100 and 200 EMS, and a breakout today. And if the stock closes above 925, I think this stock could see some sort of an outperformance going forward. On the immediate basis, the upside target for Reliance will be at 945, and someone who wants to initiate a fresh longs can do that with a stop of 918.
Okay, Bajaj Auto, Maruti Suzuki, Bharti Airtel, Heromotoco, a clutch of those names are the ones which are leading the index higher. Eicher Motors is down. We haven't discussed Eicher at all. Siddharth, a small miss at that. The stock is down about 2.5%, 3%. What's your view on Eicher Motors?
Yes, in today's market condition and this kind of a volatile conditions, of course, a small miss will give a deep cut, and that's what we have seen in the results season also, and that's what follows in the sales numbers even. But I still believe that commercial vehicle will do good for this company going forward. In terms of RE is concerned, I think it's very difficult to break the market share of Royal Enfield for Eicher Motors. Although bigger players like Bajaj Auto is definitely trying, they are trying to eat up the pie of those markets. But I think it's very difficult. I think Eicher Motors will be back to business very soon with some value-added products going forward. Although we have no recommendations on Eicher Motors, but still I would suggest if somebody is holding the stock and thinking of offloading it, well, it's a quality play, can bounce back and revive very soon.
Okay, it's 3:20, that time of the show when we get you some closing strategies from our technical experts going. Manav, any BTST or STBT that you would recommend for Monday's session?
See, at the current levels, KPIT looks very well placed. This will be one of our BTST candidates, and most importantly, the breakout that has taken place today has been accompanied by very good volumes, and the momentum indicators are still in the buy mode. So I recommend a buy into this with a stop of 281 for an upside target of 296.
Okay, that's a buy on KPIT Tech, a counter which has been quite strong actually in the last few sessions. Sarvendra, what about you?
I will be picking up from the basket which is going down, so around 1,500 stocks going down to around 400, 430 on the upside. So I'll pick from the sell side basket given STBT. I'll think what looks weak to me is Berger Paints. These are spot levels. My sense is that the stock probably in the next session should be somewhere around 282. 282 will be the target on the downside for Berger Paints. So a sell on Berger Paints with a stop loss kept at 293.10 for a target of around 282.
Interesting. We haven't discussed these insurance companies for a while. Just want to bring them up. HDFC Standard Life or ICICI Pru, or for that matter SBI Life, lying low the last couple of weeks or 3 weeks at least. Don't come up into any kind of conversation at all. Otherwise it's a fairly hot sector, to be honest. ICICI Pru too, despite those good numbers and stock going up all the way to 430, 445, has come off as well. So insurance certainly not the hottest sector currently. Siddharth Sedani, what's the insurance buy at Anand Rathi? I mean, do you guys have coverage here? And if so, what stock are you recommending?
Well, we don't have a coverage on any of the insurance plays. But looking on the prima facie, looking at all these companies, I think HDFC Lives, ICICI Pru, these all companies has been really doing good. Numbers are good, but on a complete yardstick, on an entire sector wise, if I talk about, this sector is still expensive. Although people are buying, people are getting gung-ho about this sector only because of a reason, the kind of penetration level we still have. And if you compare the valuation with the US or other developed markets, the valuations are pretty expensive, but only on the back of the penetration level which India has an under-penetrated insurance space. I think people are gung-ho about it. Yes, it looks quite interesting with a long-term perspective, but I think if somebody is planning to buy these companies for 12 to 18 months, I think they are missing the actual target. They should be with a 3 to 5 year perspective, then only they would achieve their goals.
Okay, pull up Steel Authority, that's sale. Remember the numbers had come out yesterday. They posted a profit figure versus the loss which was seen in the corresponding quarter. 18 was the profit versus the loss. We were seeing some bit of outperformance from stocks like Steel Authority and JSPL.
Well, Steel Authority numbers didn't excite much. In fact, the other numbers like JSW Steel and Tata Steel numbers were far better. We believe that steel space has long further legs to move ahead. Looking at all-time high in terms of realizations, looking at the other spaces globally which has been really doing good, has been really encouraging in terms of steel space performing well in 2018, although with a caveat that global coal prices are up by 15%. Which may impact their raw materials here, because some of the players in the steel space are still importers of coal. So there they may see some kind of hiccups in terms of raw material cost is concerned, but overall steel space looks quite interesting, but not necessarily SAIL. Of course, the other players like JSW, Tata Steel are better placed rather than SAIL. In the entire space, we don't have a particular recommendation.
Okay. And a stock which has just zoomed in the last few minutes of trade is Engineers India. Pull up that stock for you. It's gained from the levels that it was trading at. It's gained about 4 or 5%, but essentially up about 2.5%. However, a move nevertheless of up after I think 3 consecutive days of a fall. Sarvendra Srivastava, can I request you to have a look at this stock and tell us what do you think of the charts?
No, absolutely. I think the stock has done the bare minimum corrections that we are looking at start of the year. So from 200 down to 130 odd. I would say that this is a stock that we've always liked, and we like the amount of correction that's already come in. So saying that another 10-20 points is possible, but I'm saying that there's a good case in point for a medium-term risk reward which is turning positive.
Okay.
And if not more, at least I would trade for a target of around 155, 160. As long as lows, we hold the lows that we printed today, and that low on the cash is 126.80. These are the highest volumes in the last 7 months, or single day highest volume on engineers in the last 7 months. And probably 6 more minutes to go, so probably it can be 9 to 12 months as well. So definitely something happening here. The volumes tell you that. So it's a good trade right now, not far away from the low. 127, 126 was the low, 132, 133 is the price. I can still believe that 155, 160 is doable here.
By the way, that's the Bloomberg chart, and that white line that my producer is trying to show is the volume today, and the blue line below it is the 20-day average volume. So the volumes that Sarvinder is talking about, of course, he's got more data about it being a 6-month, 7-month high, but on a 20-day average basis as well, the white line shows you just how high the volumes are compared to the 20-day average. So that's the point about Engineers India in the session today. What else, Amit?
Well, Neeraj, IndusInd Bank, yesterday's outperformer, when it gained 3.5%, is at day's low right now. IndusInd Bank has seen cuts of 2%, 19.13 is the price where it's trading. Manav, if somebody was carrying the longs from yesterday on IndusInd Bank, what should they do now?
See, the stock has important support at 1880 on the lower side, and which also coincides with its important short-term averages and with important filters. So as long as 1880 is held, I think the overall trend for the stock will remain bullish, and most importantly, the trend is still intact. So I recommend that one should continue to hold long positions unless key support levels are breached, and then we conclude that if there is a short-term reversal, till then I think the stock will continue to outperform.
Okay, so you can look to hold on to the long position. 1880, if I heard it correctly, Manav mentioning that's the support on IndusInd Bank. Just pull up JSW Energy. I think that's corrected quite sharply, and that too is at day's low. JSW Energy is sitting with cuts of almost 8% in trade. And one stock which has been doing well from the futures and options market is Cholamandalam Investment and Finance Company. That's up nearly 4% in trade, almost at day's high level. We'll get a view on this, but as of now, let's head across to Neeraj to find out how exactly today's closing and weekly closing too is panning out. Neeraj, after yesterday's stellar run-up on back of short covering, which was majorly led by the private banking space, we're seeing some cool-off today.
And again, led by banks, Navneet. So down about 1%, the Nifty bank, and principal culprit for what's happened to the Sensex and the Nifty, I think we're closing the lowest point in the last few hours, maybe the lowest point of the day as well, but not a good sign today. But it's okay. First day of the new series, the volumes, though I must say the volumes were a lot higher than what you normally see, but not on volumes that we saw in trade yesterday for sure. The mid caps and the small caps, they continue with the pain there. The broader end of the spectrum is slowly getting chipped off, and stocks are very, very close to the 6-month, 9-month, 12-month lows across the spectrum, and that's actually not a good sign. A lot of mid-cap and small cap, and a lot of retail money is in those stocks, and those stocks are slowly getting chipped off. But maybe they are appearing value zone. Let's wait and watch. Well, let me talk about the large caps. Now we will bring you up to speed with what's happening broader end of the spectrum. Bajaj Auto up about 5%, that's the principal gainer. And then look at the other auto stocks. So Maruti, Tata Motors, DVR, Heromotoco, Tamo itself about 1.5% higher, so going well. ICICI Bank, the stock in news today, up about 1%. What's not done well today, aside of course ONGC, Tata Steel, M&M, HUL, are banks. So look at IndusInd Bank 1.5% down, Kotak Bank 1.5% down, HDFC Bank 1.5% down, Yes Bank about 1% down, and HDFC would be somewhere in this list as well. So it's not turned out to be actually HDFC is marginally flat, but banks by and large have looked slightly wobbly, and that's the reason why we have the index doing what it is doing. But the broader markets are different kettle of fish, Navneet. A lot of pain, especially at the small cap end of the market.
That's right, Neeraj. In fact, yesterday too, when the frontline indices were up, we did highlight for you that the broader markets have been under pressure. Today also, as Neeraj highlighted, 1.5% cut. But let me still start off with the gainers first. Merck was quite active in today's trading session. Merck finally closing the day with gains of 9%. And you also had Pyramid Enterprises, which surged, I guess, in the second half of the session. No major gains, but still closing around the day's high mark is not bad, 2.5%. Godrejcp Godrej Consumer, a lot of technical analysts have been giving a call on this one. That was up nearly 2% in trade. And Cholamandalam Investment and Finance, once again an F&O counter, saw gains of 3.5%, closing the day at day's high. Blue Dart was the other one where some sort of buying was witnessed in the second half of the session, and that's closing with gains of around 5%. On the losing side, well, I've got a lot of stocks, but I've just picked up few. Atlanta, remember yesterday it was down 20%, locked in lower circuit because of the news of auditors resigning. Today also it closed the day at day's low, but it didn't. We didn't see that lower circuit coming about. Quality was the other one where sharper cuts were seen in the second half. That was locked in lower circuit with cuts of 10%. Kaplan Point, which has been falling in the last 4 sessions, saw sharper cuts in fact in today's trade, closing with cuts of 12 points. Marksans Pharma saw selling coming about in today's trading session, so that too was under pressure. And Reliance Communication, which was going up in the last 3 to 4 sessions, on day one of this new series saw cuts of over 10%, and V-Guard has been reacting negatively to its numbers in the last 2 sessions. And finally, Steel Authority, which came out with the earnings yesterday, failed to excite the market today, and that too is closing around the day's low mark and saw cuts of nearly between 5.5% to 6%.
Well, so that's the picture at close for the day, and then we'll get in the weekly picture as well. But for the day, we're closing at the lowest point of the day for a clutch of indices, and that's never a good sign. Right out there at the lowest point of the day for the Nifty and the Sensex, and that's never a good sign. The Nifty Bank too down about 1%. The volumes, okay, the market breadth firmly in favor of the declines in the session today. So it's not turned out to be a great day. Look at that. The declines are 1200 versus 300 advances. It's been a very unhappy day for the market breadth, to be honest. But the turnover, Navneet, I'm interested in seeing what the turnover is looking like. First day of the series.
It's slightly on the higher side. Usually we see a turnover of 3.5 to 4 lakh crore on day one. So I'd call it, this is very close to the average turnover you see on a daily basis.
Yeah, let's pull up the weekly performances as well and should throw up some interesting trends as to what's happened in the week. Okay. This is for the mid-cap index. And is this for the week? Yes, it is for the week. Well, no noticeable names there.
Dilip Bilkon, that's the highlight of the week, Neeraj.
Down about 17%. Yeah, yes. Well, you're right. So that one. Vakrangi is on an upper circuit today, by the way.
Whoa.
But yeah, it's lost about 14% nevertheless. But yeah, it's on an upper circuit today. V-Guard, I think we're just talking about
earnings.
It. Yeah, and surprisingly, Coromandel International is up about 8%. Surreptitiously has made its way back after getting hammered about 2 or 3 weeks ago post its numbers.
You know, we didn't take any view on this one, but Torrent Power and both Torrent Pharma have been quite active in the last 2 sessions. So for the week also, they've been doing pretty well. And Godrej Group companies, Industries and Consumer have been pretty strong in a weak market.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll talk about them as well with our experts. But this is more or less the picture at close. Let me try and correct that. Talk about, by the way, SpiceJet is up about 8%, which is actually not a bad sign. But let's try and correct that. Talk about some of those names. Manav Chopra, Torrent Group, Torrent Pharma, Torrent Power. What have you made of the charts this week?
See, the most importantly, this stock after a good series of consolidation has seen a very sharp breakout, and the volumes are definitely looking very attractive, and a weekly close above its key support, key important resistance level definitely indicates, we could see some more upside into it. The support for Torrent Pharma on the lower side will be close to the levels of 1400, and one should definitely look to buy this on lower levels. In case if we see this stock breach 1450 on the upside, I think the next window would be open and we could see another room up for another 10-15%. So this stock is definitely very well placed, and the other stock is Torrent Power. We've already seen 7 to 8 sessions of consecutive rally into this. Definitely, though, looking at the current formation, I sense that one should look to buy this on dips. 260 and 255 are the important support clusters, so one should wait for this stock to cool off, and once if we get this on the important retracement level, definitely look to enter. And on the upside, the stock has a potential to retest its previous all-time highs of 300, so this has to be viewed for more of a medium-term play.
Okay, that's the view coming in. The technical view on the Torrent Group companies, Torrent Power and Torrent Pharma. Before closing, Sarvendra, I was highlighting Cholamandalam Investment. How is that one looking on the charts? Because that went up in the second half of the session.
I think within this financial space, I think a small little correction on this one seems to get over, reacting from its medium-term averages. So as long as now we stay above 1500, there is a case in point where the stock could pull back towards 1650, 1660. But beyond that, I think I would not take a call. More or less, I think this should and will remain a pullback. So 1650 is max on the pullback, what I will look as a target.
Okay. Sarvendra, Manav Chopra, gentlemen, many thanks for joining in today and giving us your thoughts. Really, really appreciate your time. Do we still have Siddharth Sidani? Okay, we should take in a final thought from Siddharth Sidani as well. Siddharth, as we speak, Heromotoco numbers are out, and you know, there's